We live in a world ruled by tyranny, where knowledge is suppressed and ignorance is glorified. A world where propaganda and misinformation travel the airways at the speed of lies. But in the midst of the violence and chaos, a great awakening is taking place. And as the media empires continue to collapse, a new network is forming. A network of truth, a network of courage, a network of awareness. Peace and greetings. You are now tuned into the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, where we examine current events, politics, health, finance, and topics of cultural relevance in America and throughout the world, while bringing you insightful interviews with guests that will both educate and inspire you. And now, your host of the Network of Awareness podcast radio station, Aura the Informationalist.
Yes, peace and greetings. Peace and greetings to the people around the world. Peace and greetings to the brothers and sisters within this truth and faith of the Most High. Peace and greetings to the people that are trying to survive. Peace and greetings to all my network of Awarians. Shout outs to all the brothers and sisters that follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, and anywhere else you follow the Network of Awareness. And just as a reminder, we're available on all streaming podcast players, wherever podcasts are played. And we got a great show today. Today is Immoral is the New Normal. And this is going to be an installment of the Narcissism Series. And even though this has narcissism written all over it, which is just another word for evil and wickedness, we're going to get really in depth today. And we're just going to have a conversation. I'm just going to keep it somewhat light, and it's not going to be so serious, but then again, it is. This is something that is very serious, but I'm going to bring it about in a very light manner with some explanation and examples of how today's society has become very immoral, and it has become the new normal. And as you can see within the artwork, I had so many different types of artwork that I could put up. I mean, literally, there's just tons of them. And I kept saying, damn, this one's good. This one's good. But I wanted to just keep it simple. So I stayed with this one. And every single day we have a choice between choosing what's right, what's wrong. We either do things that are good for us, or we're either doing things that are bad for us. And it's something that's very old. It's something that's been going on since the days of antiquity, to be honest with you. And it's something that is becoming the bad, you know, like the wickedness, the narcissism. It's on a rise. It's getting, in my opinion, it's getting really bad. It's coming to a point where you just see it almost every single day. You see this type of behavior. not only on the internet, of course, social media, but it's really everywhere. Even when you walk outside, you see it all the time, especially depending on certain places that you live. And I'm going to read a scripture here that is one of my favorite scriptures to just set it off here as far as like what the topic of discussion is here. Some of you already know that my favorite book in the scriptures is the book of Isaiah. And book of Isaiah just has so much knowledge. It has so many lessons. And it gives you a great understanding of how society was back in the days because Isaiah lived through several kingdoms. And because the transitioning of these kingdoms, he got to see a lot of different type of narcissism evolve within these kingdoms. He got to see different zeitgeist within these kingdoms. And of course, one of my favorite verses is, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Now, what we're seeing is a lot of this these days. We're seeing it in children. We're seeing it within adults. We're seeing it within our governments, especially here in the United Shenanigans of America. And even though my show is international and people do follow me from around the world, I focus a lot on the United Shenanigans of America. And shout outs to all my listeners around the world. And if you don't know, if you're new to this broadcast, the reason why I focus so much on the United Shenanigans of America is because this used to be the standard according to perceptions of others around the world. This was like the standard of what the world should be like, right? United States, the melting pot, the land of the brave, the freedom. This is where you can make your dreams become a reality, where dreams come true, the American dream. But slowly but surely, the Most High, and I'm going to say it again, the Most High, nobody else, our great creator. Some people may call the Most High God, the creator, Yahweh Elohim. But that force of energy that governs all is what's been bringing out that this country is not as great as it seems to be and never really was. You were just under hypnosis to believe that it was. And I focus on that because now that this country has been exposed little by little, and now that little by little has become a lot by a lot. Before, throughout the centuries that this country has existed, there was always things being brought out. So this country's never been great, ever. But what happens is people compare this country to other countries that are really in a bad state, especially economically. And whenever a country is in a bad state economically, it's always going to look bad. They call them third world countries, where there's extreme poverty and people are getting robbed and raped and killed all the time. But this country, along with Europe, especially when it comes to Great Britain and the UK and all that, those governments, the oligarchs from here to over there, because this country is like, this is the bully for Europe. Europe has created this country so that this country can basically do all the dirty work. This is the muscle. And the muscle's been made to look like the best place to ever live on the face of the planet, where the Most High is starting to reveal that is not the case. It's just a big illusion, just like everything here is an illusion. Now, a couple of things, just so we can gain some understanding here as to why I do these things, because I think that's something I need to start doing sometimes, because some people don't really know the purpose of the network of awareness. And I'm going to bring that out today. So let's go into it. Let's look up shenanigans, all right? Because everybody hears me say the United Shenanigans of America, right? Why do I say that? Well, shenanigans, the definition is secret or dishonest activity or maneuvering. For you brothers and sisters that live in the United Shenanigans of America, does that sound like America? Does America sound like it operates in secret, that it's dishonest? It has dishonest activity and it maneuvers in dishonest ways. It maneuvers secretly. Isn't that what the Masonic institutions do? Skull and Bones, right? What happened when George Bush Jr. was asked about the Skull and Bones, or what was his name? Kerry, his cousin. Can you tell me a little bit about the Skull and Bones? He said, the big secret. He goes, it's so secret, I can't talk about it. And we laugh it off. And the reason why we laugh it off is because we're under a great hypnosis here. A lot of people are so delusional here that there is a mental instability here. There is, I did research on a study, and this came from research from the psychiatric and psychology institutions that pretty much put information in the DSM-5. And back in 2017, the 2016 or 17, it was researched that 93% of Americans in this country suffer from some form of depression. Now, what does that look like? Well, let's look up what depression means, because depression seems to be very popular. And you've heard me talk about this, and I'm going to do more shows about this because I'm going to do a documentary where it's called the documentary that I'm going to break down is Hip Hop Star or Rap Star. There we go, Rap Star. And that documentary was about all these kids now, these young kids from ages 12 or 10 to about 21 that are putting out this trap, what I call low-life music, where it's all about depression. And most of the kids that are putting out this music, like Little Xan and Little this, all these Lil Bo Peep, all these littles, they all on some type of antidepressant medication. They're all on Zoloft, Xanax, and all these other medications that sound like planets from Star Trek or different nations that Captain Kirk would go visit, Klingons and all of that. And these kids, what I call the mumble rappers, right? The ones that are like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just told my people that, we just keep it lit. You know what I mean? Like, I just went viral and I put my music on SoundCloud, and you know what I'm saying? It got lit and it worked. Now, these are still children of the Most High, right? Being misled. And I do have empathy for these kids, because I have a child that's now an adult, if you even want to consider her that. She's about to have a baby soon, and I'm trying my best to leave it to the Most High that she's going to do the right thing, because it's scary to see when our kids, because my daughter's going to be 21 years old and about to have a child. And I am trying my best, and I say it to you publicly, I am trying my best to not be so judgmental. I'm trying my best to not be the dad that doesn't play games and doesn't sugarcoat anything. Not that I'm trying to sugarcoat things now. I'm just trying my best to keep things light. And I'm getting counsel about that little by little. All right. Because I'm the type of person where when I see nonsense, I like to check it and nip it in the bud immediately. But sometimes you just got to let things kind of take its course and provide some pleasant guidance and not be so forceful and dropping hammers all the time. But with that being said, I'm going to look up the meaning of depression here, because a lot of these kids, like I was just describing, these mumble rappers, and even the kids that are not on antidepressants, many of our children, they don't, when you're young, and many of the adults that are listening to this broadcast, you know what I'm talking about. When you're young, you don't have your moral compass. It's not that strong. You're not going to really have a strong moral compass. Some of us had some to a certain degree, especially when it came to respecting our elders, which that's not popular these days. But you don't really have a strong sense of morality when you're young. That develops with time. That develops with error. That develops with the Most High whooping your ass when you are in error, when it's not being checked by anybody else, especially when it's in secret. Because when it's in secret, the Most High is seeing it. And since nobody else is, it's going to be brought out. And that's when we start to, if we want to do the right thing, that's where we'll have a sense of morality to make the right decisions. And real quick, I want to give a shout outs to anybody who's going to be joining the broadcast in the Spreaker chat room. Shout outs to brother Ash out in the UK. Appreciate appreciate you joining. And anybody else that wants to join the chat room, feel free to do so. But like many of my listeners, some of you don't join the chat room, and that's perfectly fine. I do appreciate your listens as well. I know everybody out here in the United States usually is already working by this time or traveling to work in their car. So your participation just by listening is greatly appreciated. Now back to the topic of discussion. We're going to look up what the real meaning of depression is. It says depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest, also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It affects how you feel, think, and behave, and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. Well, let's just stick to the first side, because this clinical nonsense, this is all pharmaceutical companies that want to provide a pill. And I'm here to tell you that there is no pill that serves any great purpose for your life. Not one. Everything in pharmacology, everything in the pharmacy industry is witchcraft. All of it. I don't care what symptom you have. I don't care what it is. Diabetes, whatever. Because if some of you do know, some of you may not know. The late great Dr. Sebi was literally curing people of any type of illness, whether it be emotional, mental, or physical. He had an herb that he can give you, a plant, a fruit, a vegetable, a grain that can cure it. Why? Because our true salvation can only come from the Most High. Well, who created the seed-bearing plants that speaks of in Genesis 1:29? The Most High. So when it comes to depression, who can really truly cure depression? Within you, the Most High. Now, when you start saying that, they're like, well, I've been taking this Zoloft for 20 years and it's worked fine for me. Has it? The fact that you have to take it is a problem in itself, because in actuality, when we are truly cured of something, then we don't really have to do anything to sustain that level of depression or whatever illness we're suffering from. It should be gone. You know, it's like when you get cut, that wound heals, your skin grows back and it goes away. And if there's a little scar, you put some cocoa butter or some Mederma and the scar goes away. The skin just goes back to normal. I mean, that's how everything should be, but yet it's not. And then of course, what our society does is they give you a bunch of different types of depression, right? Because it's like once we believe in one lie, they'll just give you a multitude and different variations of the lie. And what I mean by that is when I looked this up and I looked up depression, this is what it does. This is what the enemy does. A group of conditions associated with the elevation or lowering of a person's mood, such as depression or bipolar disorder. So these are the different types: clinical depression, persistent depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, bipolar 2 disorder, postpartum depression. These are all things that people have been going through for centuries, if not eons. These are things that were going on since the days of antiquity. Did they have pharmacology? Did they have a pill that makes everything better? No. They just had every seed-bearing plant that the Most High provided for them to use. I can tell you that there's been times where when I was younger and I was suffering, I was literally vomiting from liquor poisoning and having all my guts spill out onto the floor to where it was like yellow and green coming out of my stomach. It was like the acids that were coming out my stomach, and everything that I was trying, Pedialyte, everything wasn't staying down. Next thing you know, I would either smoke some marijuana, right, which is a plant, or ingest it in the form of a tea liquid, and boom, within not even a half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes, cured. Now I can eat, now I can drink water, everything can stay down in my stomach. There's plenty of plants that can help you breathe. There's plenty of plants that can pretty much cure you of anything. But yet we live in an immoral society because we look to man to resolve the problems that come the problems that are created within the self, within the spiritual being having a physical experience, instead of looking to the Most High for that cure, for that remedy. So when I decided to call this episode Immoral is the New Normal, it's because since we've strayed away from the Most High more and more and more, the more immoral we've become. So now let's look up the word immoral, and then we're going to look up the word moral, and we're going to get some good understanding about this, because I think it's very important that we understand the difference between the two, and why I decided to do this episode, which is an installment of the Narcissism Series, because we're going to get into that too, because this is all connected. And what I mean by all connected, this is all connected to the wickedness that the enemy likes to bring upon us. Some people call the enemy Satan, devil. It's a level of malevolence. Let's just keep it at malevolence. The malevolent marauders are everywhere. It's in the air. It's in the air. Do you realize that we are breathing in toxic air every day? Every day. These chemtrails that are being sprayed, the air is toxic. You know how many parasites are in our body? And I'm going to be doing some parasite cleansing in the very, very near future that I'm going to be documenting to show you, brothers and sisters, how many parasites that we have in our body, no matter how healthy we think we are. But back to the word immoral. Immoral, not conforming to accepted standards of morality. I love how they put that so vague. That's coming from the Oxford Dictionary. It says, what does immoral mean in simple terms? Not moral, wicked, bad. I like that now. Now we're cooking. Now we're getting somewhere. So what does immoral mean? Wicked, bad. Does immoral mean wrong? Hell yeah, it does. It's deliberately violating accepted principles of right and wrong. And it's really just the wrong, because anytime you go against the laws and the statutes and the commandments that the Most High has told you, like this is right. This right here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this is right. And you want to hear something that's even more interesting is that a lot of us, if not all of us, are born with that. Most of us are born with that understanding innately. Innately, we're born with that. Believe that. We are. You see it in kids all the time. You see kids do it all the time, where they have this goodness to them, especially like you've seen that this thing that's been going viral on Instagram, where they show this one so-called black child running to this one so-called white child, and they're so happy, and they're like, hey, and they're running towards each other, and they're just hugging each other in pure joy and happiness and appreciation of each other. Because let's just say that the two little boys, you know, John and Peter, or whatever you want to call them, they're just seeing each other as spiritual beings having a physical experience, and they're happy. So we have that innate goodness in us, that the Most High created us in that image. But through conditioning, through our upbringings, through societal conditions, through the conditions that our parents set, by the conditions that they were raised with, and their parents and their parents and their parents, slowly but surely, whatever goodness or morality we have in us, it slowly but surely dissipates. And we tend to go the more immoral side. We start to do wicked things. We start to sin, some almost immediately, depending on the upbringing. So immoral is becoming the new normal now, because back in the days, if you was immoral, it got checked. I've heard stories from my elders within my family, you know, grandparents and great uncles and aunts, and telling me stories of how it was back in the days, telling me stories of how, you know, and this was the standard. It doesn't mean that everybody was doing this, because there was a lot of wickedness back in the days too, a lot, but it wasn't normal. It wasn't the new normal like it is today. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Back in the days, you had, when it came to dating, okay, especially with the women, the young women, a lot of young women back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, here in America, didn't matter if you were black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, okay? Especially if you were if you were in a melanated family, meaning like in a black family, there was a lot of morals that brothers and sisters were raised with. So when you were dating, a lot of times you would have a chaperone. You couldn't come to each other's house and sleep over or go out late hours. And some of the principles that was instilled based on the word of the Most High, because a lot of families were rooted in that word heavily. You had people where if like the women had a lot of self-respect. So a lot of women weren't operating like little sluts and harlots. So if a guy was dating a woman back in the days, he was going to have to really get to know her and really make some commitments before they even had sex or kissed. He was going to have to earn that because that young woman had a lot of self-respect, that you was going to have to get to know her. And a lot of the young men respected that because they were being raised in a way to look at the female principles and look at the female in a very respectable manner. It was very common. It was very normal for things to be like that. Were they young men and women, teenagers or whatever? They were harlots and doing all types of ratchet stuff? Yeah, of course there was. But it wasn't common. It wasn't normal. And as a matter of fact, when it wasn't normal back in the days and you was like that, everybody knew. Everybody knew. It was like, oh yeah, that's Sheila. She likes to lay back in Chevys all the time. She's always laying her back on Chevy cars, because they used to, a lot of people would make out and have sex in cars back in the days, especially the old cars. Those old cars were so big, you could lay like 3 or 4 people down there. But that was the norm. That was the norm. It was normal for people to have a sense of self-respect. And with time, especially here in the United Shenanigans of America, you had a lot of things that were being done to bring about immorality, to where immorality started slowly but surely becoming the new normal. So I'll give you another example of what I mean. As many of you or some of you may know, that when the welfare system came into play, especially for melanated women, right? So-called black women. And when I say so-called black women, I mean exactly like that, because you had your Hispanic women, that a lot of Hispanic women you can't tell the difference, to be honest with you. All right. Especially within my family. But just for the purposes of how people understand things, let's just say Hispanic and black women. When the welfare system came into play, it was designed to basically give the woman an opportunity to separate herself from the man in the family structure, giving her all these benefits so that she couldn't rely on a man or give her the perception that she didn't need a man for anything as long as she had children. And the more children she had, the more welfare she got. And that breeded a sense of laziness and many other psychological disorders. And slowly but surely, the immoral behavior started to rise. The wrong started becoming the right. That's when the darkness started being accepted for the light. And men started being pushed out that way. And then many black and Hispanic males were being imprisoned heavily. So now, not only do you have the woman being manipulated to believe she doesn't need a man through this welfare system, not only was she looking at the welfare system as a form of support, which that transmuted into the child support system, but that's a whole nother story for another day. You have men being imprisoned. So you have boys and girls that didn't have the masculine and the feminine principles guiding them through the foundation of the Most High to teach them right from wrong. And when you didn't have that and you have the wrong being the norm, kids didn't know the difference anymore. They thought that the wrong was right because it was being sponsored and supported by this government to be so. And then slowly but surely we got to where we are now. Where we are now is all of that, those beginnings, which I just spoke of one, but we're seeing a lot of that now on steroids. We're seeing it on an overdose. It's being overdosed. It's flooded to where now immoral is the new normal because everything that's wrong is right now. Everything. It seems like it's normal for a woman to sleep with 10 different dudes in a week. I was in a relationship with a woman that was probably sleeping with at least 3 different guys besides me. And it's become to the point where when they're operating like this, same thing with the men. I'm not just excluding the women. Same thing with the men. There's men that, sleep with a bunch of different women. And let's not even bring about the STDs that are in the world today. Okay. But let's also talk about how these people that are operating in this behavior, they have lost a sense of morality that where the morality doesn't even exist within their mind. They look at their behavior as normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And you can't convince them otherwise. And now I'll give you another example, present day. I'm kind of going to go a little bit back and forth here when it comes to our history. But before I do that, because I did read what immoral means, right? So let's look at the meaning or the definition of morality. So morality is interesting because I would like to believe that the Most High created us in his image, like it states in the scriptures. So because of that, I believe that we're born with an innate way of morality, but some would disagree. Some would say that we're born in sin. Maybe so, but let's get an understanding of this. Principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good behavior and bad behavior. Distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior. That's morality. A particular system of values and principles of conduct, especially one held by a specified person or society. Bam. There you go. When the education system in the United States, as well as in other places around the world, took out God, the Most High, took out prayer, took out scriptures out of the school system, took out like everything that had to do with the Most High. That's when you had a society that was starting to be engineered socially and socially conditioned to become wicked. And I'll read it again, a particular system of values. So that system of value that the Most High brings within the scriptures, because that's what it is. It's a system of values and principles. The Most High gives us laws and statutes on how to live. The Messiah gave the example through the life and through the teachings on how to live. And that's the life that we should be living, a life of morality, a life of good, a life of peace and understanding and of wisdom and of charity. Are we seeing that right now? I asked you that question. Are we seeing that? Are we seeing any form of that? I asked anybody that's listening to this live broadcast if you want to put an answer in the chat room. Are we seeing that now? Are we seeing a society or societies around the world that's based on charity, that's based on values and principles that are righteous? Are we? Everywhere you look, no matter where you look, there's something wicked going on. People have lost empathy so much that that's on steroids as well. Let's look at the meaning of narcissism, right? And then we're going to look up empathy because these things is where it all lies. This is where it all lies. Narcissism, excessive interest or admirations of oneself and one's physical appearance, selfishness involving sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, a need for admiration as characterizing a personality type, self-centeredness arising from failure to distinguish the self from external objects, either in a very young babies or as a feature of mental disorder. You ever seen a grown adult get jealous of a baby because the baby's getting so much attention? I've seen it. That's a form of narcissism. But that's the world we live in these days. That's the society, especially here in the United Shenanigans of America. Ever since social media, which is the age of self-worship, this thing between right and wrong is so blurred. It's almost like there's a big dark cloud or a fog upon it to where you can't even see what is right and wrong no more. And when you can't see what's right and wrong no more, it tends to just go wrong all the time. And that's the world that we're living in right now. And brothers and sisters, I urge for you to keep it together, to stay rooted in what's right. Because if not, this thing can overcome you. And it's overcome some of us or many of us. I know it has to me in the past, many of times. And I already knew what was right from wrong. But some people will say that the wrong feels so right, doesn't it? It feels so right. It knows, I know I'm not supposed to be whoring around, but let me tell you, when I bust that nut or have that orgasm, boy, it feels so right. And then, of course, all the problems come afterwards. And that's where the deception really is, because when wrong starts feeling right and it feels good, you're going to have some major problems. And that's why we're in the position in the world today, because everything is being socially engineered and conditioned to be this way by our governments, by the principalities, really, in totality, by these forces that you can't see and that you can see. And before I get into that, let's look up empathy. because I'm going to talk about this whole medical tyranny too, because this medical tyranny is it's a big sign of the times of how immoral is the new normal. All right. So empathy, let me type that in here. We'll look this up. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. What empathy really means. Emotion researchers generally define empathy as the ability to sense other people's emotions, coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. There are 3 types of empathy. Cognitive empathy is the ability to understand another person's perspective. Emotional empathy, the ability to physically feel what another person feels. Empathetic concern, the ability to sense what another person needs from you. And you may have heard me talk about this. I believe that when Brother Mbam was on this show, we talked about it a little bit. We also talked about it on the Council on Christ Relations podcast. And if you haven't signed up or followed or listened, especially to all my network of Awarians, check out the Body of Christ Church, which is the BOCC.com. They have a podcast called the Council on Christ Relations. Check it out, because when it comes to Christ relations, that's where empathy is really important, because if you can put yourself in the Messiah's shoes and understand everything that the Messiah went through in order to teach us what it looks like and how we should be when it comes to salvation, that's what we should all be doing, because that's where we're going to truly find the joy and the happiness in this life. Is it going to come with a lot of struggles? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But you're going to be way better for it. And I think that what's happened too with the social conditioning is that a lot of people don't like to go through struggle. They want everything to be easy. And that's another thing, is that because the way we've been socially conditioned and making everything easy, it's easy to do wrong. It's easy not to be held accountable for your actions. It's easy to not accept responsibility for anything you do wrong. And that's where we're living in now. Immoral's the new normal. Another example, medical tyranny is on the rise. We're starting to realize when it comes to things being exposed about this country, which is the United Shenanigans of America again, people are starting to realize that the healthcare system that we pay so much money for sucks ass. Always has, never been good. And if it has, it lasted for such a short period of time. There's a lot of medical tyranny when it comes to Dr. Fauci, when it comes to the CDC, right? And you know what? Just by me saying that, let's see what they're going to, let me tell you something, like, just on a side note, I put out a post a couple of days ago on social media. I believe I put it on my TikTok page, and it shows an evolution of throughout the past several decades of how women have changed. And it basically shows a cartoon of anatomy, right? And it shows the female genitalia, and it shows like back in the 60s that women had a lot of pubic hair. And then in the 70s, it decreased and decreased. And when you got to the 90s, it was pretty much bald, right? Women were shaving their private parts, completely bald, shaven, right? Where back in the days, it wasn't like that. Now, 2000, I show a picture of a woman having a penis. Okay. And this is where we've come to. Can you believe that? You know what TikTok did? They put, those little bars on the bottom where they'll say they'll say something about about COVID education and all that stuff, and they'll mark your post. Why did the CDC or the censorship pirates, the censorship oligarchs place that on that post? I was like looking at it. I'm like, why did they mark my post about this? Like, this has nothing to do with COVID or with the CDC, but yet they marked a post like that. That's a cartoon. That has nothing to do with that. And it just made me realize that they're just watching. They just got me flagged. It's become to where anything that you're presenting that's based on truth, they're going to flag it. They're going to do something to it, because truth cannot exist within the society that they want us to have. But I will tell you something. The truth of the Most High cannot be denied, okay? It can be hidden for a while. You could put a cover on it. You could put a curtain over it. You could put a stain on it, but it's always going to prevail. The truth of the Most High is always going to prevail, no matter what. And that's what's happening right now, because even though immoral is the new normal. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Most High taught us that. It's nothing new. This is old. It just looks new because somebody said it was. Just like what we were discussing yesterday about the Super Bowl, and every time they say, oh, he's the first African-American quarterback to play in the Super Bowl. He's the first African-American to do this and that and that and this. And it's like, according to who? According to Satan? According to you feeble-minded, mumbo-jumbo liars that have a long legacy of lies? But yet, there's a thing called cognitive dissonance when it comes to this medical tyranny. Let's look up the definition of cognitive dissonance. And this one is this right here, what I'm going to read. Let's just consider this to be a pandemic or an epidemic. Okay, this is an epidemic right now, especially when it comes to our medical tyranny, especially when it comes to anything of benevolence, anything that's wicked right now, which is pretty much almost everything. This right here is an epidemic. The state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially relating to behavioral decisions on attitude change. What is an example of cognitive dissonance? Well, I'm going to read this one, but I'm going to give you plenty. It says, examples of cognitive dissonance: eating meat. Some people who view themselves as animal lovers eat meat and may feel discomfort when they think about where their meal comes from. Oh man, that's a whack example. But of course they would give you one that's whack. What is cognitive dissonance? A mental conflict that occurs when your belief doesn't line up with your actions. An uncomfortable state of mind when someone has contradictory values, attitudes, and perspectives about the same thing. That is a pandemic these days. I'll give you an example. Many of us have been letting people know around the world that the science appliance is no good. There's nothing that is good about it. Matter of fact, furthermore, I'm here to tell you that when it comes to anything that's in regards to vaccination, is not good. Not a damn thing. There's never been anyone or any type of vaccine or satanic serum that's been created throughout the ages that serves a purpose of benevolence or serves a purpose for cure and remedy. Not a damn one, period. And that is not a perspective. That is a fact. That is the truth. But you know what's going to happen with some of the people that hear me saying this right now? That cognitive dissonance is going to kick in. It's like, nah, he's wrong. He's wrong because Dr. Faulty said that we've had satanic serums in the past that did this and that and that and this. But yet you have people that are dropping like flies. Like it says in the book of Revelation, they're dropping like flies everywhere. Oh, but he didn't die from the satanic serum. He died because he had a heart attack. He died because his asthma got too bad. She died because of her diabetes. Her sugar levels went up. All right. But what about her sugar levels going up right after she took the satanic serum? They was under 200 before, and then she took the satanic serum and now they're over 200. What about that? And the cognitive dissonance kicks in. Then they're like, you're an asshole. You don't know what you're talking about. Do you have degrees like Dr. Faulty does? No. All right, then. It's not even worth it these days. That's why I let the Most High and let go. Let go and let God. Because all we can do is be an example. Because immoral is the new normal. And all we can do is continue being the example of what moral looks like, what moral is. And the only entity that can give that to us is the Most High through this Holy Spirit, through our ways, through our actions, through our behavior. And when I say Holy Spirit, I'm not talking about religion, that the Holy Spirit that religion talks about. I'm talking about the Holy Spirit, that which is and always will be, the righteousness of the Most High that any of us can obtain if we just take time to put our faith and get a greater understanding of who and what we are and what it is that we're experiencing, instead of having this cognitive dissonance to where we're so programmed to believe in nonsense. We're so programmed to believe in things that we are being constantly shown that are not real, that are not true. And by the way, brothers and sisters, just to let y'all know, I'm going to be doing an episode with Brother Hashiach today. And if Lord willing, we're gonna do it live on the Council on Christ Relations. But if not, we'll do a pre-record and we'll put it out. And I just remembered that because my reminder popped up here on the in my computer. So around 9:30 a.m. We'll post it, whatever. We'll most likely be doing a live episode, and we're going to be doing an episode on this journey to truth, the journey to faith. And Brother Hashiag is going to give his testimony. So going back to this thing with the immorals, the new normal, we have a society, and I wanted to kind of give, I hope that I gave a great explanation to this. I hope that it's been meaningful up to this point to where I wanted to give it to you simple, and I wanted to give it to you in steps and stages, because it's all about awareness. And you've heard me say this many times. Awareness is like oxygen. If I'm not aware, I'm literally dying because of lack of oxygen. Awareness goes along with peace of mind for me, because peace of mind is like oxygen for me. If I don't have peace of mind, I'm in a state of despair. I'm in a state of it's just not a good feeling. That's why peace of mind is sacred. And the only true peace of mind that we can get is the truth of the Most High and the wisdom and the teachings that the Most High has given us through the Messiah, through the prophets, the apostles, just the truth that is undeniable, that is everlasting. And I think that more and more people are starting to understand, people that have no sense of spirituality, people that don't really believe in anything. Even atheists are starting to get an understanding that there is such thing as a spiritual warfare going on right now, because their cognitive dissonance is now being challenged. It's being met with the truth. To where it's wait a second, I think there is something here. The atheists are starting to be wait, even though I still don't believe in the Most High, I don't believe in anything outside of what I'm experiencing here. There is something going on here. Maybe I should start considering this, not that I'm going to convert to any type of belief system, but they're starting to have some type of an awakening that there is something terribly wrong here, that there is a force of malevolence, that this thing that people call Satan or the enemy or whatever, that it's real. Because if anything, the pandemic has really brought that to light, because immorals become the new normal with everything, with relationships, with the way people are raising their children, the little bit of family structure that is left. You know how many households right now, just here in the United States, but I'm pretty sure all around the world, are dysfunctional? I mean, truly dysfunctional. My extended family and my immediate family are dysfunctional. I mean, on so many levels. That's why you're seeing people really starting to separate from family. And this has also been prophesized. Because now the reason why people are separating from their families, it's not because all their family members are wicked. It's not just that. It's more to it. It's that this cognitive dissonance, it's these belief systems and things that people have accepted when it comes to the status quo mentality. And then you got a lot of brothers and sisters that have awakened from this slumber, that have awakened out of the emotional hypnosis and pretty much snapped out of that trance. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. All of this is bullshit. All of this is nonsense. This is not how we're supposed to be living. But then the family members that have the cognitive dissonance and whoa, you better come correct. You're out of order. You're wrong. But they're like, no, I'm right. I'm right. Look at what's happening here. This is all dysfunctional. This is not how we should be. This is not what the Most High intended it for us to be. And they're just going to fight you with that ego, fighting you to the very death to defend what they think is right, but is really wrong. So they're going to fight you to the very death to keep the immoral standard that has now become the new normal and to keep it there, to not go against it. They're going to keep the mentality to have the path of least resistance, because people don't like resistance. They want everything easy, especially with the children these days. These children these days don't want to work hard for anything. And think about that. Think about what's the next 10 years or 20 years going to look like when most people are going to be narcissistic and like that, where they're not going to want to take responsibility for anything, be held accountable for anything. What is that going to look like as a society? I don't even want to imagine what it's going to look like. That's how horrible it's going to be. It's going to look disgusting, but that's where we're leading to. That's why it's so important to keep that moral compass within you strong, to keep the wisdom and the truth from the Most High that's filling your spirit. Keep that active, keep it persistent, keep it ongoing, keep it to where nobody can penetrate that. No matter how strong the ego is in others, keep your spirit strong, because that is the spiritual warfare. If you want to sum it all up, that's the spiritual warfare. It's the ego versus the spirit. And Satan loves the ego because he knows that if he can make you think that you're always right while you're wrong, then he got you. Hook, line, and sinker. Done. Over. You're done. You can get a fork in you because you're done. You've been cooked to be an evil person. You've been seasoned. Many of us are being seasoned to wickedness. And it's like every season now is a season of wickedness when it comes to our 4 seasons. And if, I look at it like this, and this is just from my perspective, it's like all I could do is live by example within my own actions, with my own thoughts, and just make that my reality for others to see. And if they choose to recognize it, great. If they choose not to, that's fine too, because I'm not even really doing it for other people. I'm not living by example for others. I'm living by example so that I can be in coincidence with the truth. Because as much as I may study the truth, it don't mean nothing unless I'm living it. And it doesn't make me perfect neither. It just makes me disciplined in understanding what's moral or what's right from wrong. And I'm going to choose right and moral all day. I will never, my cognitive dissonance is that I will never accept a moral as the new normal, ever. I won't ever do that. And because of that, it's going to make me a target, as it has. It's going to make me public enemy number 1 with certain people in society, within my family, within an extended family. And that's okay. I can accept that. I can accept that because the Messiah accepted it too. Didn't have a problem with that, because right is right. And being right and living in this truth and having a moral standard for yourself and having a moral compass is going to bring about a lot of opposition. And that's okay, because having a moral compass can give you a lot of peace of mind in a place that is filled with nothing but immorality and chaos that the immorality brings. And if you look at social media, when you look into the eyes, like that saying, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Look into a lot of people's eyes and you could just see it's just like there's so much wrong that's going on there. There's so much instability. I saw it with a woman that I was talking to on a like a FaceTime chat, if you want to call it, a video chat, and she couldn't look me in my eyes at all. Why? Because she's not right. She's got a lot of turmoil. She's got a lot of immorality that she's struggling with. But she's going to try to convince herself, like many of these people do, that that's not the case. They're going to try to find something wrong with you, but you don't have a problem looking at them in their eyes. Why? Because the light in your eyes is based on the truth that you are following. And it shows. It's undeniable. But when somebody's living a lie, and when when they're not righteous, or when they're immoral, makes them uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable around righteousness. That's why when the Messiah was walking around, a lot of people get upset just looking at him. And it happens to many of you. I know many of you experience this. I bet you if I was to have a show and I was to invite people and talk about this and say, hey, let's talk about all these uncomfortable situations, or how you make other people uncomfortable just by existing, just by being in their presence, I guarantee you that a lot of people would have tons of stories to tell me of how others that are immoral feel uncomfortable around the moral. Because it's an auric field. It's an energy thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's spiritual warfare. And what happens is when people are around good people, or should I say when bad people that are doing bad things, people that don't have morals, when people that are living lies and doing a lot of what I call the fuckery behind the scenes or in the open, and they're around people that are righteous and that are doing good things and that are truly filled in their heart with righteousness and morality and empathy, they feel uncomfortable. They feel out of place. They feel like they got to get you out the way too a lot of times. I've had plenty of experiences like that, especially when I used to be in corporate America or working jobs. That's why I love working from home. I love doing anything I could possibly do from home, because I used to hate being in a situation where as soon as I walk into the office or whatever, somebody's looking at their clock to make sure that I'm coming in on time, or looking for anything possible to complain about me or to create some type of discord within the environments that I was in. And I used to be the type of person like, why they don't like me? What did I do? I didn't do nothing to them. You know, I baked them a cake. I gave them cookies. I said good morning to them. I didn't do nothing to them. I used to be like that when I was very young. I'm not like that anymore. I haven't been like that for a long time. I could give a rat's ass if somebody that don't like me just because of something that they don't like about me, which they probably really don't like about themselves. And I'm here to tell you people that a lot of this immorality and this conflict between the immoral and the moral is because a lot of people that are not doing right, a lot of people that are just full of shit, the reason why they don't like you and they don't like your moral ways and they don't like the goodness in you, they can't even appreciate or acknowledge it, is because they're insecure. They're the unrealized potential. And furthermore, the reason why their energy or their malevolent energy seems to come off so intense and strong is because they have an entire world and they have the society that they live in, that's become normal. They've become the ones that are right. They're the ones that a lot of people are starting to side with because most people are immoral these days. It's like a gang. They're everywhere. I see them everywhere. I see dead people, right? You see them everywhere. And you starting to, let me tell you something, morality and the people that are doing righteous things every day and trying their best to live that life of righteousness, being the example, they're the minority. They are literally the minority in the world. You start to feel like you're all alone because you got these whack jobs and these nut jobs trying to make you feel lesser than because you're not operating in the same frequency as them. I just had a situation this past week on a Friday where I had somebody approach me on some nonsense, wanted me to believe their lie. And unfortunately, I went along with entertaining this nonsense and the only reason I did is because I'm trying my best to not check people in the most, anger or aggressive way possible, because there's a lot of things I wanted to say, but I didn't say them because I knew it wasn't right. And no matter how wrong this person was, I just let them be because I say, you know what? My peace of mind, I can't allow you to disrupt that. So go ahead, speak your malevolence, speak your bullshit, speak your nonsense. I'm going to keep my peace of mind. I'm going to stick to what's moral and what's right. Because a lot of times people will try to convince you that your morality is wrong and their immorality is right. And then they will try to make it look like you are the problem, like you're the one that's bad, like you're the one that needs to repent for something that doesn't even exist that you supposedly did, and that you need to apologize for being moral, for being a good person because they're such a shitty person. Don't allow that to happen. Let them be, but continue to be the example of what's moral and what's right or not. But this immoral new normal, it's not going nowhere, brothers and sisters. Okay, so for all of you people that may think that eventually things are going to go back to normal, there was never a normal. It was never normal. It was just a lot of masquerading. There was a lot of just like, Band-Aids and things to appear to look like they were great, but they never really were. There's always been immorality here. It's just that now the Most High is bringing it to the light. The Most High is just bringing it on Front Street, on stage for everybody to see. The red curtain has been pulled from each side and everybody's getting to see the nonsense and the bullshit that's always existed. And many of us, like myself, are being like, told you, but hey, I'm just happy it's here. And just by you saying that makes you a target. I personally welcome it as much as I don't like to be in these situations where I have to deal with this type of nonsense and this battle between the ego and spirit with other people. I still do embrace it because you know what it does for me? It reminds me, anytime Satan's trying to attack me like this through people, it reminds me that I'm doing such a great job for the Most High. That's what it does. Anytime I get shadow banned, anytime I get approached by some bird brain woman or some bird brain man that wants to come at me sideways, anytime I get censored, anytime I get some person that wants to yell at me in the street and go all crazy, or some person yell at me out of their car while I'm walking with my dog, whatever it may be, I could give give you tons of examples. I'm like, I'm doing my job for the Most High. That is confirmation. Confirmation. Let's look up the meaning of confirmation real quick. And then I'm going to be wrapping things up over here. Because one thing I'm going to start doing, brothers and sisters, I got a marketing campaign for this podcast. And it was suggested by some of my coaching that doing shorter shows is better in my best interest. I know some of you brothers and sisters tell me, hey, I like listening to the 2 hours, hour and a half, hour shows. But I'm going to start condensing my information to about 30 to 45 minutes tops. And still try to add some music in the mix too, by the way. But, you know, I got to go with what works. And right now, people's attention spans are short. So if we got to bring this truth out, we got to bring it out the best way possible for people to receive it, right? Because even though I do this for the Most High, you know, and I do this for my brothers and sisters within this faith and truth and understanding and wisdom and knowledge, I also do it for the people that don't have that, the people that are still thinking. I do this for the people that are still thinking that immoral is the new normal and that it's right. I just want to be an example to be like, no, it's not. And there's still time for you to figure that out. There's still time for you to get the proper remedy, the proper cure from that which is and always will be, which is the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. But let's look up confirmation. The action of confirming something or the state of being confirmed. It says in the Christian church, the rite in which a baptized person, especially one baptized as an infant, affirms Christian belief and is admitted as a full member of the church. What is the true meaning of confirmation? Confirmation is the verification or final proof of something. And see, that's what happens. When you're being attacked, that's just proof that you're doing the right things. And because you're doing the right things, you're going to continue to be attacked. So just deal with it because you're doing the right things. That's what comes. That's what comes with the territory that you're in. When you're in this territory of righteousness, when you're actually doing a lot of good things, when you're a charitable person, when you are making a difference through the example and through your works, because, right, faith without works ain't a damn thing. But when you put in that work and then you got people coming at you from all different directions being like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like when you did that. And then they speaking lies about you. That's just Satan. That's just that malevolent force trying to get you off course. You know, I wrote on the rhyme one time, follow the source that'll put you on course to be your own boss. Don't get lost in the action of distraction because the same attractions will close you in like captions. I'm masking the truth that's everlasting. Warm heartedly harassing in a hyperactive fashion because I got a passion for expansion. I got a passion to expand on this truth that only can come from the Most High. So when people say, well, what's the purpose of the network of awareness? Is to remind people that they were created in the image of that which is true. They were created in the image of light that is pure and righteous, and that there's forces out here that are trying to convince them otherwise. So stick to what is true, that it's always been, and it's going to come with a lot of struggle, but it's worth it. It's going to come with a lot of resistance, but it's worth it. Okay. So I think I've said enough on this topic. I'll probably do, a couple of different parts to this, and I'll probably bring some guests to discuss immoral is the new normal, because it really is, brother, sister. And it just is. There's nothing we can do about it except be an example of what the opposite of that looks like, what it looks like to be moral. And it's always going to come with a lot of resistance, but that's okay, because whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, doesn't it? And I got to give all praises to the Most High for that. Truly, all praises. So with that being said, before I close it out, like we do here in the Network of Awareness, if you want to send music in that you've done, you can email me at ORRA, ORRA, at networkofawareness.com and let me know what you want to send. I'll listen to it and we'll play it. Now, I only like to play music that's meaningful here. Doesn't necessarily mean that you got to give all praises to the Most High in your songs, but your songs got to have some type of meaning to it, something that is going to serve a positive purpose, something that's going to bring some type of understanding and knowledge for somebody to gain from. I'm not going to be taking no mumble rap. I'm not going to be taking any rap or music that's going to endorse promiscuity or recklessness and immoral behavior. Let me just generalize it. Like, I'm not going to play music on my broadcast that represents immoral behavior. All right. So if you got something positive to say, even if, like, for example, I got brothers that send me music where they talk about things that are bad, but they shed light on them, like to let you know, like, this is bad. And let me identify, let me show you what it looks like, because it is wrong. And let me show you what that wrong looks looks like. I'm always down to get music like that. All right. So with that being said, we're going to play a couple of tracks and then I'm going to sign off here. So we're here live, baby, on Tightrope Tuesday of the Network of Awareness. And let's start it out with some music, shall we? This is a song by Take One and myself. This is a song by Take One featuring me, and it's called Can't Stop Now. And when it comes to the science appliance, you know, we got to stick to what's moral. We got to stick to what's right. And this song is all about that, baby. So let's go.
Peace, brother. I don't have a lot of time, Take. They got the dogs on me. You know, they really trying to get me to take this science appliance, brother. And you know I'm not doing that, man. I'm not doing it. I'm in an undisclosed location right now, up in the nature spot near that cabin I used to go to. But they got the dogs tracking me. They got the satellites. So they eventually gonna get here. I got it barricaded, you know what I'm saying? Because the only way I'm taking that jab is if I'm in a bag, brother. So Take, I just want to tell you this before anything else happens, and I want to get this out to you and let you know. Alright, brother, Take, we're at the door. I gotta tell you, just listen, brother, just listen. Now it's time to get out your own way. Allow Yahweh, today is your day to amaze in many ways. Cause it's just another phase in this infinite space where y'all be giving us grace. I'm working the race with diligent praise, unwavering faith. I'll be damned if I stray from y'all's will and embrace. Man sealed his fate with his ignorant ways. The world is disgraced, vibration has raised at a very fast pace. I'm present today in high frequency waves. No more being enslaved, all praise to Yahweh. A Hebrew warrior from the land of the brave. From the cradle to the grave to my very last day. Send a serpent to his cave, God favored my way. Never fearful or timid, it was written and given. No religion, division can stop a messenger that's fulfilling his mission.
Things only get worse before they get better. But the story ain't meant to last forever. Even when the light is dim, the sun finds a way to shine again. Things are getting ugly, things are getting cold, but I know it's best to stay in my zone. And I can't stop now, I can't stop now.
Hey, I can't stop and won't stop, I gotta keep propelling. Final destination is a room in the heavens. Diligence and militance, his will is my medicine. I can live without a half, but his love is my everything. COVID is on the road, got the world on its toes. So many sheep with their eyes closed. Hey sir, would you like to take the jab? Man, kiss my ass, stop living by what the news told you. You got injustice, brutality saturating the streets. Blood spilling for no reason, thanks to the police. Meanwhile, syringes are being taken with speed. Can't do it, you ain't sticking no vaccination in me. Despite all the chaos, I still manage to stay on the right path. Gotta keep my focus and my faith strong. All day long, let spiritual music play on. All the honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh.
Things only get worse before they get better. But the story ain't meant to last forever. Even when the light is dim, the sun finds a way to shine again. Things are getting ugly, things are getting cold, but I know it's best to stay in my zone. And I can't stop now, I can't stop now.
Can't stop, I won't stop. 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 Just can't stop, I won't stop.
Sakai, or Take One. There's only a mad time for this to happen. We about to hit you some bars to resonate with your soul. Bar Smiths, let's go. Let me talk my shit. American dream is nothing more but a mirage to keep you enslaved, controlled by the synagogues. They gave us a white man with blue eyes, called him God. Malcolm X started to learn before you sabotage the truth that Muhammad Elijah was a fraud. The whole Islam nation, nothing but facade. You industry niggas, nothing but some cheap rods. Riding balls to Satan, giving his dick a massage. Americans Babylon, hidden the camouflage. Brotherhood recruitment and the Masonic Lodge. Triple scoops of the cold truth, that's how them dies. Taking shots that even Neil can't dodge. Land of the eagle, robbing you for your morals, promoting hair and evil. Heavily surveillance that every camera can see. GMO process and everything that they teach you. Wicked ways to the world is hidden.
Thank God I'm alive. This world's so empty, I need you with me everywhere I go. I'm fighting day by day and night, hope you can spare my soul.
There is no world trade, now the world trades in pain. Is this an accident? It's more simple than strange, we trapped in it. Perhaps a tragic tactic, the form that makes this the sanction. Internet interactions, following your bad habits. No matter how much you make it, they always got their eye on it. It's evident the government don't want a peasant resident become activist artists who owns business or residence. Cause sooner or later, we're residing right next to them, controlling your next of kin, teaching them the world of sin. They only learn the worst of it, every kid equipped with barcodes and biochips. Slowly we accepting it, pretending it's benefiting. But I didn't wanna know what you be headed and what you're getting and selling. Cause in Armageddon, your brother is overprotected. So you always say yes to him, he wants to be respected. When our service has expired, he'll get tired and we all be irrelevant.
Thank God I'm alive. This world's so empty, I need you with me everywhere I go. I'm fighting day by day and night, hope you can spare my soul.
Hey. On the surface he's grinding, but deep inside he's crying, trying to keep his eyes on the prize to keep them aside, smiling. All stacked against him, he leans on Yah to not fall to violence. And when he call on Yah, Yah responds with such flawless timing. His environment's filled with zombies, it's not the brightest. Finding ways to escape this place, he gets lost with rhyming. Using his gift to uplift, but also constant reminder that somewhere someone needs his songs to give all praise to Yahweh.
Don't worry, just don't worry, Yahweh, then Yahweh's gonna bring us home.
Ayy, got the heart of a lion, armor all on his body. This shoot's the hardest thing ever, but still he costs the mileage. Deep in the trenches where wickedness prospers all the time. It's like the good gets punished just for doing what is smart and righteous. As the stars are aligning, Yahweh's calling his finest. All united, not divided. Tough road, but I think I'm alive.
Thank God I'm alive. This world's so empty, I need you with me everywhere I go. I'm fighting day by day and night, hope you can spare my soul.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom. And all who know the 300 Spartans gave their last breath to defend it.
When the light has faded and darkness is abroad, the light is only dim because the darkness teaches us lessons that need to be learned in order for one to move forward. Embrace the darkness, for the darkness is your friend. So there is no end. It's only an illusion to what has been. Follow the light and let the spirit embark on a flight to a destination unknown, but to a place where love is the building blocks that call this place home. We are always accompanied on this journey, but still feel alone. It is never the same journey or experience that is ever shown. It is your imagination that awakens the passion that will weather the storm, because it is a pure compassion in the soul that is vigorous and strong. We're one with eternity, so let's be connected to the positive stream that allows us to fulfill our infinite destiny, most definitely. Let's strive to be the best people we can be with a power that is humanly new to see. So mistaken dismay can lead us astray, so let us stay, for it is our free will that allows us to make a choice. So I choose Yahweh with no delay.
I done made mistakes on purpose to divide the work from the worthless. Reveal the facts to be certain. No pain, no gain in the verses. My faith been alive before churches, cause Yah is person on person. So I'm worried about complicated versions, cause the call to divine divergence. I'm still hurting, so searching, networking and murking. Anytime think I drop my curtain, with a spirit that city suburban. I'm seriously merging and physically working on my purpose to lyrically service the mental malnourished until I perish.
Yahweh's gonna save the awakened, then take him to an ageless haven. Patient, I can't stray away, gotta keep obliterating the pavement. Still remember that day on the phone, Mark, he said, yo, don't you take your foot off the gas, always something to give y'all praises.
We're the dark oasis, countless cases, a peak of faithless, I'ma need the patience, defeat the chases, we seek his graces, for true salvation, we keep on praising, we go on blazing these revelations, cease to hate, no altercations, good vibrations, we back to basics, to build foundations, y'all defeated Satan. I done made mistakes on purpose, to divide the work from the worthless, reveal the facts to be certain, no pain, no gain in the verses, my faith been alive before churches, cause Yah is person on person, so I'm worried about complicated versions, cause the call to divine divergence, I'm still hurting, soul searching, networking and murking, anytime they can drop my curtain, with a spirit that city suburban, I'm seriously merging, and physically working on my purpose, to lyrically service, the mental malnourished until I perish. People pursuing acts of violence, their persistent act of defiance, freely forming a righteous alliance, truly against the science appliance, on a mission with wisdom and guidance, steady defeating the ignorant science, sealy convicted and non-compliant, spiritual wars to move in
Let's
silence.
talk about what matters, drop the vanity, folks out here losing their sanity, kids popping off lost in fantasies, people grieving over loss of family, the evil that be with the power, turning the people with credence to cowards, seeking to seize believers with bows, man even Stevie can see that it's foul.
I done made mistakes on purpose, to divide the work from the worthless, reveal the facts to be certain, no pain, no gain in the verses, my faith been alive before churches, cause Yah is person on person, so I'm worried about complicated versions, cause the call to divine divergence, I'm still hurting, soul searching, networking and murking, anytime they can drop my curtain, with a spirit that city suburban, I'm seriously merging, and physically working on my purpose, to lyrically service, the mental malnourished until I perish.
Depression gone with every song, music led by another echelon,
To get you strong, keep pressing on, long after we dead and gone.
from dusk till dawn, we're righteously armed with spiritual lessons from Yah.
We where we belong, we keeping on, the righteous with third of Zion.
Records embellished with heavenly eloquence,
Elohim's presence presently evident,
intricate elements, infinite intelligence,
spiritual specimens lyrically
the
resonant,
gift was inheritance, smaller percentages,
carefully measured and meant to be
with the
shared.
message projected, cemented, embedded.
The sensible question is, what will you give from it? I made mistakes on purpose, to divide the work from the worthless, reveal the facts to be certain, no pain, no gain in the verses, my faith been alive before churches, cause Yah is person on person, so I'm worried about complicated versions, cause the call to divine divergence, I'm still hurting, soul searching, networking and murking, anytime they can drop my curtain, with a spirit that city suburban, I'm seriously merging, and physically working on my purpose, to lyrically service, the mental malnourished until I perish.
You are now tuned in to the network of awareness.
How you doing? How you doing?
Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Taking my thoughts and bringing to Christ. Throwing down imaginations. I'm just trying to stay patient. Stand fast, can't wait. Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Dodging demons like the Matrix. I'm just trying to go home. Swore made it that truth. So I just gotta move on. Ready for war, ready for death if it go like that. So if I die, I pray that I die for the most I got. I can't turn around, I can't look back, so it's all out war. I'm seeing the path so narrow, careful to not fall. Get up for it's too late. Sun come with a blaze with a judgment in that day. Won't see where the sun went all black like sackcloth and the moon blood. This is a warning to go and repent. This is a warning to seek out the Lamb. This is the point where you go and examine. Gotta stay patient, I'm looking inside. Trust the Most High with all of my life. I love all my brothers, we suffer with Christ. When it feel like death, just know that it's life. Don't give up, Christ pay that price. Don't give up, Christ pay that price. Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side. We just gotta endure. Taking my thoughts and bringing to Christ. Throwing down imaginations. I'm just trying to stay patient. Stand fast, can't wait. Yeah, we ready for war. Moving on one accord. Brethren at my side, we just gotta endure. Dodging demons like the Matrix. I'm just trying to go home. Swore made it that truth, so I just gotta move on.
Brothers and sisters, when you live in the present, there is always an opportunity for a new beginning. So I impress upon you that you start a new beginning with the Most High, a new beginning with this truth, and start working on that faith so it becomes unwavering. And really be prepared and aware for the spiritual warfare. Don't look for the light at the end of the tunnel, because the light is and always will be within you. So light up the tunnel and find your way through the darkness. This is all the informationalists from this episode called Immorals, the New Morals, saying peace, love, and light. All praises to the Most High. Shalom, Barakatah. Let's go. See you tomorrow on Wisdom Wednesdays. Most High willing. Let's go.